All right, everybody, we are live like a suicide. You are listening to the Rock and Roll Rebel Show. I'm your man, Triple R, and we're gonna get into a little something. Excuse me. We're gonna get into a little something today. We're gonna watch The Unfiltered with Dan Bongino. I love Dan Bongino. He's up there with Tucker. He's up there with all the other elite patriots that are trying to do real stuff. I think I got this music in the background. I got this music playing in the background. Let's pause that. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in once again. We are moving up in the world. We are up at 13 subscribers. 13 subscribers, people. We're doing big things, and I appreciate everything we're doing. And they say if you want to become a professional in anything, you got to get 10,000 hours in. So we're on our way to 10,000 hours. And once again, you can always like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. And you can follow me on Twitter if you want to follow me on Twitter. I get crazy in there. You know what I mean? I get real crazy. I'm talking about Billy Clinton today and how somebody got strung up with an extension cord and got shot, but there was no gun. But that's neither here nor there. Like and subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. And I don't know what's going on, people. I really don't know what's going on. I feel like we're in a slow drip into World War W3. What's really going to happen? What's really going to happen? You got Joe Biden going into Ukraine. So let's just get into the story at hand. Let's watch a little bit of Dan Bongino Unfiltered. This guy's a real patriot. He breaks it down better than me. It's Saturday night, so you know I had a couple milks, but we're going to keep it going.
Are we headed towards World War III? Just as Biden visited Ukraine, there are new signs of China and Russia cozying up together. Doesn't make me too comfortable. But listen, I'm not talking about Red Dawn-like scenarios. In just a minute, I'm going to break down.
Red Dawn was a great movie. Red Dawn was with Patrick Swayze. China came in, and they tried to take some town over, I think, in West Virginia. I don't even know if it was West Virginia or nothing, but let's get back into this.
What a war with China, an invasion here would actually look like, and why it may have already started. Plus, masks don't work, and natural immunity to COVID is suddenly cool now. Who knew? Well, pretty much every sane person for years. But will the left ever apologize for calling us all conspiracy theorists? Here's a hint. Don't hold your breath for that. You know who's fired up about this? The great one, our friend Mark Levin. He joins us tonight in an unfiltered.
I am not a big fan of Mark Levin. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I grew literally, 45 minutes from Washington, D.C. Went to go to Washington, D.C. all the time. Been to all the clubs. Partied a lot. Adams Morgan was big. They had a great pizza spot there. But Mark Levin, he's a WMAL. I believe he's the radio host for WMAL. It's a local Washington, D.C. channel. It's not that great. I do like my man Chris Plant, though. Chris Plant is he's hilarious and funny. I still listen to him to this day, even though I'm in the South Carolina area. But let's get back into this.
Exclusive. Also, the Biden administration keeps lying about the economy because that's what they do. But Americans know the truth. Unfiltered hit the streets to hear from real Americans who are the ones actually paying for the inflation crisis. Plus, everyone's going to sugarcoat it. The United States appears to be walking directly into World War III. The signs are everywhere. Pentagon's planning to send more than 100 U.S. troops to Taiwan for training in the coming months. Meanwhile, China's Xi Jinping is planning a visit to Moscow to see Putin. I'm sure they're just there to play Scrabble or whatever. Putin, who just this week, by the way, suspended participation in a nuclear arms treaty with the United States and then threatened to resume nuclear testing. That kind of sounds like a big deal. Even worse, China appears to be strengthening its support for Russia. And folks, there's real concerns China will start supplying Russia with lethal weapons in the Ukraine war. Matter of fact, that just broke the other day. Meanwhile, the Biden administration just issued new sanctions against Russia. That'll do it, no worries. And they seem just fine dragging the United States directly into the war with Ukraine even more.
Because we all recognize that if we abandon Ukraine, we abandon the UN Charter.
Anthony Blinken is a noob. He's a horrible person. I don't know how he gets anything. I don't know how he got into this administration, but he's deep state. You got to be careful of him. Let's continue.
Itself and the principles and rules that make all countries safer and more secure.
Article 5 is a sacred commitment the United States has made. We will defend literally every inch of NATO. Every inch of NATO.
Yeah, he talks tough, all right. Really do too much. But if we're plunged into a war, God forbid, with China and Russia...
Now, was that Corn Pop? Because Corn Pop talks tough, you know. He gets his legs rubbed up and down. But let's get back into this. I'm telling you, people, y'all got to wake up. Somebody's got to wake up. We got to start doing something. You got to start posting everything on social media. I don't think people understand the implications that's really going on. It's real. It's real.
China decided they wanted to invade the United States, well, what would it actually look like? Forget all the fear porn headlines. Remember that movie Red Dawn? You're going to see Chinese Communist Party army members parachuting into New York City. That's not what it would look like. What would it really look like? Well, what if I told you it's already underway? And we could describe it in 4 simple steps. First would be infiltration, right? This includes invading the universities, industries, financial institutions, technologies like TikTok, even sports and Hollywood. Infiltration's important. You got to get here first, right, if you're going to do an invasion. And why is it so important? Well, the communists have been working on it for more than a century. They even have a name for it. If you were going to call something a long march through institutions, you'd probably be telegraphing that you were intending a long march through institutions, because that's what they called it. So if the infiltration of our institutions is it actually happening? Well, here's a map of all the known Confucius institutes in...
Oh, wow, that's a map break. Let's do this map break. Why was it just on me? Oh, Lord. All right, right here is a map break. Look at that. That's West Virginia, China Institute, Troy University in Georgia. And I also believe that, I don't know if this is true, but supposedly China has police bases here. I heard something about that on Twitter earlier. Stanford, yeah, I think Stanford gets a lot of donations from China. Okay, so that's interesting. Let's get back to the story.
The United States, you know, our educational institutions that are run by the Chinese Communist Party. Infiltration? I say that's a check. Step 2, once you infiltrate, you need collaboration. You always need useful idiots. You need those Vichy French, you know, like they had in World War II. You need them. Folks, this show's covered the business ties between Biden Inc. and the Chinese Communist Party for a long time. That sounds like collaboration to me. Who better to collaborate with than the big guy currently sitting in the Oval Office? The big guy. Most of you got that. The Biden family alone reportedly banked more than $31 million in business deals with Chinese Communist Party connected elites. That's quite a chunk of change. So first China infiltrates, then it...
$31 million to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden? It's crazy.
Collaborates. You need your useful idiots. You also need useful idiots in Hollywood, the culture of sports, too. It always helps. Remember the freedom protests in Hong Kong in 2019? Well,
I remember those very much. I think the NBA, some NBA guy, I think it was a trainer, like text, like he was supporting the people of Hong Kong. And then all of a sudden it was like LeBron James and Steve Kerr, the Golden State Warriors coach. They were all like, oh, wait a minute. What's this guy talking about? We're not doing none of that. We love China because I believe the NBA is propped up by China. I believe China gives the NBA $7 billion a year because they broadcast their games over there. I mean, I just got a thing from Russia the other day. I was on my other channel, Rock and Roll Rebel Gaming. I was playing Fortnite, and I think I was playing the Macarena in the background, and YouTube sent me a thing that Russia doesn't allow the Macarena in their country, so I got a copyright strike, so I had to literally take down the video, but it's neither here nor there. Let's get back into my boy Dan Bongino and he's doing real things.
During the NBA preseason, one team owner tweeted support for those.
Story, and
There's Steve
a
Kerr.
lot of us don't know what to make of it. So it's something I'm reading about, and just like everybody is, but I'm not going to comment further than that.
From the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power, introducing the Ego zero-turn riding mower.
Oh
with
my, we don't want no
E-Steer
Eco
technology.
Rado.
Drives like a car.
No, we ain't
turns
driving
on a
like no
dime,
car. Let's get
delivering.
that. Oh my. Oh, technical difficulties. We all right. We had 11 minutes, 6 seconds. Here's the rest of Steve Kerr.
So many people.
Oh, there's LeBron James.
Harmed,
LeBron James.
Financially, but physically, emotionally, spiritually. So.
Does anybody ever seen LeBron James? Let me get into this. Anybody ever seen LeBron James? LeBron James is always reading a book, but sometimes he reads the book upside down. Sometimes he's on page 2 or 3 of the book. You never see LeBron James reading a book at the end of the book. It's funny. I just thought I would bring that up. And you can YouTube search it, Google it, whatever. You'll see when LeBron's reading a book, it's always at the beginning or it's upside down. But I love him. He's a hell of a basketball player. He's in the top 10, definitely. He's not number 1. He'll never be number 1.
Just be careful what we tweet and we say and what we do, even though, yes, we do have freedom of speech, but there can be a lot of negative that comes with that too.
Yeah, those two had a lot to say just about everything else. You ask them about anything from bubblegum to BLM, they've got a comment, but not on China and freedom and stuff. It's above their pay grade or whatever. So why all the hush-hush, you know? Well, just this week, the NBA inked a new business partnership with Communist China. Again, here's my shock face. And if it looks like my normal face, it's because it is. So infiltration, check. Collaboration with useful idiots, check. Sounds like the invasion plan. We're 2 steps there already. Well, you got infiltration, collaboration. In order to invade, you also need destruction. Listen, I want to be clear. When I say destruction, I don't mean annihilation. Annihilating the country wouldn't do much good. Why would you want to invade a parking lot? I mean destruction of our society as we know it by creating chaos. What good would a Chinese Communist Party takeover of the United States be if all the resources they wanted here were destroyed? Even Politico has reported on China buying up American farmland at an alarming rate. Hard to call it a conspiracy theory, right? I mean, the left loves Politico. What do you think they're buying up the farmland for? You think they're buying the farmland to go play tiddlywinks in the cornfields? What do you think this is, Children of the Corn? Malachi gonna pop out? And Joe Biden, by the way, let a Chinese spy balloon travel across basically the entire United States over strategic military locations. And here's another.
Oh, I haven't seen this picture yet. So that's a picture of above it in the plane, yeah, because it got shot down right over my house, basically. And I went to the beach the next day to see it, but the ships were far out. I think it got shot out like 6-7 miles from the beach. Oh, wow, that's above it. That just looks like a regular satellite to me. I don't know if you'll Google satellites, but I don't trust anything no more, trust me. And I know people who have been in places who know people, but.
Another not-so-fun fact, China's been sending spy balloons to other military locations around the world. Why do you think they're doing that? Crazy. It's almost like they're preparing for something if you're not an imbecile. You know what else fits at the bottom of a spy balloon? This is really bananas. Yeah, a nuclear device that can set off an electromagnetic pulse, otherwise known as an EMP. And you know
I'm
what?
worried
That
about
could
the
do
EMP.
really bad things. Like it could wipe out our entire electrical grid. You know, that would be bad. Like your fridge wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to grab a cold Heineken out of the fridge, or anything else for that matter. China's even reportedly opened up police stations in the U.S. Really? Gosh, collaborators, it's like they're already planning for the takeover. And in Canada. They say they're here to monitor Chinese citizens, but I'm sure there's nothing to see here at all. Don't you worry about it. Just let Joe Biden take charge. He'll find the red carpet eventually. So we have infiltration. Check there. Collaboration, definite check. Destruction, they're working on it now. And finally, subjugation. Listen, I've said on this show for years, the elites in this country want a social credit system just like China's to control and subjugate the population. Useful idiots. This is why I spoke out against vaccine passports during the pandemic, and the liberal media was like, don't worry about it. Begun. The infiltration's already here. The collaboration's already on the record. The destruction could be just months away. And the subjugation, they've already imported the model. But folks, listen, I don't believe America is going to go gently here. I don't want to be apocalyptic. Estimates show there are 393 million civilians.
That's all the guns in America. 393 million. No, Americans are armed up. Trust me. I'm armed up. I'm up to 13 weapons, I believe. 13 weapons. I'm not counting knives or anything. I'm talking about weapons that pew pew. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's your best right. The Second Amendment and the First Amendment, you got to keep track of them. If you don't keep track of them, you don't have a country no more.
Own firearms in the United States. There's a lot of really badass mofos in the United States. It's enough for at least one person, those firearms. That's a big problem for any country looking to conquer us. It's going to be someone really pissed off behind a lot of closed doors. I've said it before, I'm long on America. God's touched this country with something special. It's a special place for a reason. But it's up to us to save it. It ain't going to save itself. Joining me now is Texas State Senator and expert on the EMP threat, and Air Force veteran Bob Hall. State Senator Bob Hall,
let's go full size on this, because I'm very... Let me pause this. I'm very interested in the EMP. The EMP scares me the most because electronics, they say if an EMP, electronic pulse device, gets detonated, it knocks out all the electricity, the transformers and all that. And I believe they said 11 months after that happens, 90% of the American population is gone. That's scary. It scares me. And that's why I now make sure I have guns that aren't in the safe, that are outside the safe, because I have a safe. I was a dummy. I bought a safe with electronic lock thinking I could just punch in the 6-digit code and open it up. But now that's going to be locked out. But I mean, I have equipment. I can definitely get into it, but you know, I'm no dummy. But let's carry on here. The EMP is very serious. Faraday box, people. Everybody look into a Faraday box. People are putting microwaves in Faraday box, generators in Faraday box. There's ramps. You got to protect yourself at all times. Let's get back to the video.
This threat of an EMP attack from a balloon over the United States, what would it do to the United States? How many of them would you need to effectively dismantle the electrical grid across most of the country?
It's a real threat. We've known about this threat for quite a long time. Matter of fact, the very first high-altitude nuclear test was done using a weather balloon here in the United States to determine its efficacy. And we've known that it is in the arsenal of our enemies for quite a while. While a balloon would not be quite as effective as a rocket that carried it higher, probably about 5 or 6 being set off would be enough to take out the entire United States. But the thing about it is, just one would be so catastrophic that it could actually, there's a possibility it could bring down the rest of the power grid by itself, by just the nature of the power grid itself, depending on each other. And so it's a real threat. We've known about it ever since the first launch of the weather balloon detonating one back in 1958. So it's not new. We know the Russians and the Chinese have it in their war plans. We learned that when the Soviet Union collapsed and high-ranking officials defected to the United States. They wanted to be well accepted, so when they showed up here, they had suitcases and boxes full of classified documents, including war plans, and it's very definitive that both the Russians and the Chinese had a preemptive EMP attack as the key to their war plans. And think about how effective that would be, rather than a ground nuclear attack that would basically render the...
What did he say? Hold on, let me bring my face up in here. They said they had a plan for the EMP. The EMP, I think, is the future. That's what you're going to do. If you're going to do anything to take over a country, you just knock out the whole electronic grid. And then what are people going to do? You can't bank. You can't pump gas. You can't do nothing. Basically, you're going back to the Middle Ages, I guess, and you're going to rub some sticks together and start a fire or something, and you're going to pray. Let's get back to it.
The United States useless to anybody due to radiation. High altitude EMP simply takes out the electrical system, which electricity is the second most important thing to sustaining life in today's society. The only air is more important. So it take one shot, electricity is gone in 11 months, 90% of the population would be dead, and the Chinese would have the biggest farm in the world.
Senator, I got to run. Just a quick yes or no to this. So you're telling me it would effectively take out most of the United States. The enemies have a plan to do it. We know about it, and we're doing very little about it at the federal level. Just, I got to run, but is that accurate?
Yes, on all counts.
Oh my gosh. Texas State Senator Bob Hall, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you.
Got it. God bless you, sir. Coming up, if you listen to Democrats, the economy's all peaches and cream, no worries. Unless, of course, you need to actually go buy peaches and or cream.
We actually purchased more chickens for more eggs. We cut back on the amount we purchase.
Welcome back. If you believe the Democrats, the economy's doing just great.
Let me tell you something about Peaches and Cream. I love the song Peaches and Cream. It's a 112 song. Throw the cymbals up. It's a great song, Peaches and Cream. But let's get back to my boy Dan Bongino. He's just trying to wake everybody up. You got to be woke. Wake up, people. Wake up. Be anti-woke. You know what I mean? Don't be all this weird stuff.
Hey, no sweat. But of course, like everything else they say, it's all a lie. So we sent an unfiltered producer out in the real world to find some actual Americans who are paying every day for the mess Joe Biden caused with inflation.
Hi, have you been to the grocery store in the last week or so?
Yes, I have.
Did you notice any change in the pricing of everything?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the price going up?
The price of eggs has gone up significantly.
Absolutely outrageous, especially when they used to be $1 a dozen.
Oh yeah, it's horrendous.
We actually purchased more chickens for more eggs.
Like, you'll know, like, hey, why don't I have as much money as I thought?
We cut back on the amount we purchased.
I have another job for you, Greg Simmons, billionaire arms dealer. Impossible
All
to
right,
catch with
people. Oh,
conventional lures.
shit.
The lure being his favorite movie star.
I didn't mean to cut.
We've all seen you handle killers.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, people. I don't know what's going to happen. Inflation is out the yin yang, I guess they would say. That's a great song too, the Yin Yang Twins.
Like a business manager.
But we just got to protect ourselves as Americans, and we got to start. I think everybody has to start posting on social media. They have to start writing their congressmen, calling their congresspeople.
Have you ever
let's just
spent
get everything
hours
done.
online
If
shopping
you don't,
for an
if
item
you just
you
sit
want?
back and relax
Sense
and
is
don't
here to help
vote,
you save
then you're
serious
doomed.
time and money.
You're 100%
We partner
doomed,
with over
and nothing's
10,000
going
of
to
the
happen.
world's top fashion stores and brands, so you can
Everything
shop all of them in
is
one
not
place.
going the way it's supposed to go right now. It's
And the
the
best thing
opposite
is,
direction
for
of the
every
way
single
America's
product,
supposed to go.
we compare price
America's
and
on a hill.
availability
We're
for
climbing
you.
the hill, climbing the hill.
So you'll never
But it
overpay
seems like
on the
America
styles
went
you
over
love
the hill
most.
and is going
Ready to
down
be
now.
Your digital shopping
So what are we
assistant?
going to do?
Learn more about
What are we going to do, people?
It's hard to
Let's get back to more Dan
It's
Bongino.
getting out of hand.
What about the Inflation Reduction Act?
Can you fill me in?
No, I'm not too much in touch with that.
Has that affected your life at all?
That started?
So we had to go back to what American used to be.
Eggs was $1.99.
Joining me now to react is Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Congresswoman,
She's
the
okay.
Inflation Reduction Act, did that actually reduce inflation, or did we miss something? And those people in the man on the street, did they miss it too?
No, I don't think they missed anything, Dan. In fact, I actually even got it wrong in the last Congress. I said the Inflation Reduction Act was more, in reality, the Inflation Expansion Act. But then I started looking at it a little deeper, and truly, it's the Green New Deal. That's all it was. And Americans are paying the price for it now because of these environmental extremists that were able to play Nancy Pelosi's con game with having a bill titled for one thing and then it actually doing something completely different. But Dan, Democrats do this all the time. They create a crisis with their failed policies. They address the symptoms at the taxpayer's expense, and then they claim victory. But in reality, it's their policies that are creating all of these problems, and the American people are suffering, while all the people who created these problems in office are shouting for joy and pretending like everything is really great. But there is a way to address inflation, and that's with energy, American energy. And that's why I introduced the American Energy Act, and it makes a more efficient process for drilling permits and prevents radical judges from inserting their political preferences into America's critical energy infrastructure. And this is the kind of thoughtful legislation that we need to get energy prices down, to get gas down, and to truly lower inflation. The only way that we can actually prosper is by producing our resources that our country makes. And this is the kind of legislation that Republicans promised we would put in place if we were given the House majority. And I fully expect the American Energy Act to pass the House, and hopefully the senators can get on board, and maybe even Joe Biden, and we can actually start addressing inflation and all of these things that are causing Americans to suffer.
Yeah, supply demand. I mean, we learned about it in third grade. Congresswoman, your comments on Pete Buttigieg. I want to play this. He's probably the most hapless cabinet secretary we've had in the history of the United States. A man so in over his head, it's embarrassing. He had a big gaffe when he showed up finally in East Palestine, Ohio this week, where he said this. Check this out.
Both information and misinformation injected into this situation, none of which is to the benefit of the community when it comes to that misinformation. So I lost my train of thought.
What a
He
turd.
lost his train of thought, Congresswoman, when he was talking about misinformation, because he spent the entire week misinforming the American people and blaming Donald Trump for a train derailment he had absolutely nothing to do with.
You can't make this stuff up, Dan. He says he lost his train of thought. Well, Americans are losing many things under his
expressed
leadership
us in interviews
as the Secretary of Transportation. And I think he needs to watch more of Thomas the Engine to really understand how our infrastructure works. But wasn't Pete
If you got
Buttigieg
kids, you know Thomas the
that we
Train.
have too many white male construction workers? And here he is dressed in cosplay as a white male construction worker, while President Trump was delivering real victories for the American people, providing the needs that they needed in that moment, in that time, showing them love and showing America true leadership.
You can't make it up. Congresswoman Boebert, thanks a lot for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Dan.
You got it. The world's on fire, but Kamala Harris says, don't sweat it. Just use a Venn diagram.
Venn diagram. I love Venn diagrams. Always ask, is there a Venn diagram for this?
Venn diagram?
Venn diagram. I love Venn diagrams. I really love Venn diagrams. You know, the circles, right? 3 usually.
Pete Hegseth, our resident.
All right, people. Thank you all for tuning in. I gotta turn this off. Excuse me for all this. And none of this makes sense. I don't understand why Kamala Harris is talking about Venn diagrams. What is she got a Pinterest page? She's on Pinterest all day? Is that what I'm supposed to believe? I mean, if we don't wake up, people, if we don't wake up, it's gonna be over. And I'm telling you, I'm not going down without a fight. That's why I started this channel. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen too much. You know, some people say I'm black pilled, some people say white pilled, red pilled. But if we don't wake up, people, and you got to vote. You got to vote. I know there's not a vote till next September, November. You got to get these people out. You got to go to the streets. I love everybody. Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you do like and subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. You can follow me down here on Twitter. I do clap back at Rock and Roll Rebel. And I'm on Rumble now. If you go to rumble.com, you can find Rock and Roll Rebel. I got some videos up on there that are hidden that people don't know about. But manana, people, manana.